Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a little experiment. I need you to trust me on this one.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
I want you to close your eyes. Actually, no, keep them open, but I need you to construct a very specific, very detailed image in your mind's eye. We are going to build a world together.
We're setting a scene.
We are setting a massive scene. Picture a theater, but not just any theater. I'm talking about old world grandeur, you know the kind. Imagine these red velvet seats that they scratch a little against the back of your legs. Gold leaf peeling just slightly on the balconies. You can smell it, right? That smell of old wood and dust and just anticipation.
Yeah, you can feel the history in a place like that.
Exactly. And the lights start to dim, that heavy hush falls over the whole crowd,
Yeah.
and the massive velvet curtain, it starts to rise.
Okay, I'm there. I'm waiting for the play to start, for the actors to come out.
There's no set. There are no actors. There's absolutely no scenery.
It's an empty stage.
Just a mirror. A colossal floor-to-ceiling mirror reflecting the entire audience right back at themselves. You're sitting there expecting to be entertained, and instead, you are forced to look at you.
Wow.
And everyone else looking at themselves.
That is, that's incredibly uncomfortable. It's vulnerable.
It's striking, right? And it kind of sets the stage for the classical idea of human nature. But I want to shatter that image. I want to update it for, for today, for 2026.
Okay.
Because we don't live in a theater anymore. So the mirror dissolves, the theater crumbles into pixels, and suddenly you are looking at a glowing, high-definition screen. It's a user interface.
Ah, okay. I see where this is going.
Specifically, a character creation screen for a massive multiplayer online game, an MMO.
Right. You've got the avatar spinning there in the center of the screen, the default human model.
Exactly. You have this generic human figure just floating there. And on the side, you have the sliders, the ones I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Strength, intelligence, charisma.
Aggression. You can toggle hairstyle or skin texture. You can adjust the smile warmth slider from like 0 to 100.
And the premise we're exploring today, which is based on Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature, specifically law number 3, the law of role-playing, is that the world isn't really that theater anymore.
No.
It is that server. It is that game.
Right. The argument, his argument, is that every single person you meet, your boss, your best friend, the barista making your oat milk latte, they aren't just a person. They're controlling an avatar. We think we're seeing reality. We think we're seeing Dave from accounting. But Greene argues we are just looking at Dave's skin. We're just staring at the graphics.
And that's the fundamental mistake we make. It's the reason we get manipulated, the reason we misread intentions, the reason we get our feelings hurt. We confuse the graphics for the code.
That's a great way to put it.
We see a smile, which is just a rendering on the screen, and we automatically assume the code behind it reads happiness true. But the code, the actual code, might read anxiety critical.
Or aggression.
Or boredom at least 99%.
Yeah. And that's the hook, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are playing this high-stakes game completely blind. We're trusting the interface when we should be trying to look at the server data.
We are.
So consider this deep dive your installation guide for a mod. We're going to install a modification that lets you see the wireframe behind the skin.
We're unpacking law number 3, the law of role-playing. And honestly, this is one of the most, I think, practical laws in the entire book because it changes how you look at a face. It changes how you walk into a room.
So before we start hacking the system, let's define the law itself. What is the law of role-playing, really? Because it sounds a bit like we're accusing everyone of being fake.
Yeah, and nobody likes being called fake.
No.
But it's less of an accusation and more of a biological observation. The law states that people tend to wear the mask that shows them in the best possible light for the specific room they're in at that moment.
So it's situational.
Totally. Whether that is the mask of the humble servant, the confident leader, or the cool rebel, we curate these personas to survive. But, and here is the twist that makes this whole thing actionable, the mask is heavy.
It requires energy to hold up.
Immense energy. And because human biology is messy, and because our brains have different processing speeds for emotions versus logic, we cannot maintain the performance 100% of the time.
So the code glitches.
The code glitches. The avatar stutters.
I love the visual metaphor we were playing with during prep for this. Imagine you're on a video call. The picture is crisp, 4K resolution. You see the person perfectly. But the connection is just a tiny bit unstable. So the audio and the video are out of sync.
Just by a millisecond, but you notice it.
You totally notice it. You hear the voice, but the lips move a fraction of a second later.
Yeah.
It's jarring. It makes you squint your eyes a little. It feels off.
That split-second lag, That is where the truth lives. We are going to learn to hunt for that lag today. That is the glitch where the mask slips and the real person, the real code, peeks through.
Okay, so here is our roadmap for today. We've got 4 slides to cover in our presentation. First, the mask. Why we're all born actors and why that's actually, surprisingly, a good thing.
Second, the glitch. The neuroscience of why our bodies betray our words, why we leak the truth.
Third, the master hacker. An amazing, almost cinematic story about a man named Milton Erickson who turned total paralysis into a kind of superpower.
And finally, the strategy. How to spot the toxic players in the game, and just as importantly, how to manage your own avatar without losing your soul.
Perfect. So let's start with slide 1, the mask.
And I think we need to clear up a big misconception immediately. In our culture, especially in the West, wearing a mask is an insult. It implies you're a liar. It implies you are hiding something sinister.
Be authentic. That's the mantra we hear everywhere. If you aren't being 100% you 100% of the time, you're failing somehow.
Right. But Greene does something brilliant here. He takes us back to the etymology, the actual history of the word itself. The word personality. It comes from the Latin word persona.
Which means mask, doesn't it?
It literally translates to mask. It's not a metaphor. In ancient Roman theater, actors wore these rigid physical masks to project a single character to the back row of the amphitheater. The mask amplified their voice and it defined their role. This is the hero, this is the villain.
So quite literally, your personality is the mask you use to project yourself to the world.
It's not a deception, it's an interface. It's the controller you use to play the game of life.
And Greene argues this isn't something we just decide to do one day when we turn 18. It's not a conscious choice at first. It's factory settings.
Right.
It's pre-installed software.
It starts in childhood. I mean, think about an infant, a baby. They're physically helpless, completely dependent. They can't fight, they can't run, they can't hunt for food. Their only survival tool is, well, it's social manipulation.
That sounds so dark, saying a baby uses social manipulation.
But it's just survival.
Yeah.
They quickly realize, before they even have language, that input A leads to outcome B. If I make this smiling face, the giant, mom, smiles back and gives me attention and warmth. If I make this screaming sound, the giant comes running with food. They are literally A/B testing their parents from the crib.
It's the tutorial level of the game. You're learning the controls. Okay, button A makes the giant happy, button B makes the giant worried and brings me milk.
Exactly. But then the game gets harder. You go to school. Suddenly, the scream for food tactic doesn't work so well.
No, it gets you sent to the principal's office.
It gets you exiled from the group. If you scream in class, the other kids look at you like you're weird. You lose social status instantly.
So you have to patch the software. You have to update your strategy.
You learn to fit in. You observe the group. What are the cool kids wearing? What slang are they using? How do they stand? You adopt the cultural costume of the tribe you want to belong to.
You mimic the values.
You mimic the values of the group to avoid being targeted, to avoid being seen as an outsider.
It's so interesting because we usually frame peer pressure as this purely negative thing that happens to teenagers. But what you're saying, what Greene is saying, is that it's actually a very sophisticated survival mechanism.
It's essential. We are social animals. For our ancient ancestors, isolation literally meant death. If you were cast out from the tribe, you were gone. So we have this deep biological primal drive to wear the jersey of the team we want to play for.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Why can't we just stop? Imagine a world without masks. Let's call it a radically truthful society. You walk into work, and instead of the usual good morning, you say exactly what your limbic system is firing off in that moment.
Okay, let's run that simulation. You walk in, you see your coworker, Dave. What do you say?
Dave, your breath smells like onions. I think your presentation yesterday was derivative and boring, and I secretly hope you get fired so I can take your corner office.
And Dave just looks back at you completely deadpan and says, "Thanks, Sarah. I'm incredibly jealous of your new car. I think you're arrogant, and I'm bored to death by this conversation. Also, I think your haircut is a mistake."
It would be a complete bloodbath.
Society would collapse by lunch. The office would be a war zone. The mask is a peace treaty. It protects our fragile egos from each other's raw, unfiltered thoughts.
It greases the gears of society.
It allows us to collaborate with people we might not personally like or even respect. It allows for civilization.
So, step 1 of this whole deep dive is to just stop judging the mask.
Yeah.
You have to accept it as a necessity.
Hmm.
It's the lubricant that keeps the engine of society from seizing up and exploding.
Precisely. If you judge it, you get blinded by your own sense of moral superiority. You think, I'm authentic, they're fake. But if you accept it, you can start to analyze it. You can see it for the mechanism it is.
But this creates a fundamental conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm constantly editing myself to keep the peace, if I'm constantly holding back that "Dave, you smell like onions" comment,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to all that stuff? I'm not saying.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just vanish into thin air.
And that is the engine of the glitch. That's what powers the whole system we're talking about. Greene describes this as a kind of civil war inside every single human being. On one side, you have the desire to communicate. We are social creatures. We want to connect. We want to show our anger, our lust, our joy. We want to be truly seen and known by others.
But on the other side, you have the need to conceal.
Exactly. We have to hide those shadow traits, the envy, the insecurity, the petty aggression that would get us rejected by the tribe. We have to hide the fact that we're bored in a meeting. We have to hide the fact that we're jealous of a friend's success.
So we are all essentially high-pressure vessels. We're constantly building up this internal pressure of unexpressed thoughts and feelings.
Then that pressure has to go somewhere. It will always find a way out. It forces its way out through the tiny cracks in the mask.
Which leads us perfectly to the man who learned to see those leaks better than anyone else in history.
This is such a fascinating story.
Let's move to slide 2, the master hacker. This story it's just so vivid. It feels like a movie script. It's one of those origin stories that when you hear it, it explains everything that comes after.
It really does. So, let's set the scene. The year is 1919. We're on a farmhouse in the American Midwest. It's winter, so you have to imagine the snow piled up high against the wood of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Inside, there is a 17-year-old boy named Milton Erickson.
And he's not doing typical 17-year-old things. He's not out working the fields. He's not chasing girls or getting into trouble.
No, he's sitting in a rocking chair, completely and totally paralyzed. He had contracted polio. It swept through his town, and it just destroyed his body. He can't move his legs. He can't move his arms. He can barely speak because his jaw muscles are affected.
The only thing he can do is move his eyes and listen.
That's it. And the doctors actually told his parents, within his earshot, that he probably wouldn't survive the night.
Can you even imagine that? Lying there, unable to move a muscle, hearing your own death sentence being pronounced just a few feet away.
But he didn't die. He survived. But he was trapped in his own flesh. He became, for all intents and purposes, a piece of furniture in the house.
So his entire world shrinks. It shrinks down to that one room, to what he can see from that one chair.
But his mind is hyperactive. He's bored out of his mind. He has no TV, no internet, no radio, nothing. So out of sheer necessity, he starts doing the only thing he can do.
He observes.
He observes. He watches his 7 sisters and his parents interact day in and day out.
He becomes a human camera, just recording everything.
And because he's removed from the game, he's not a player anymore. He's just watching from the sidelines. He starts to notice the code. He starts to see the things that the participants themselves who are caught up in the action don't see.
He starts to see the disconnect, the lag.
He would watch one of his sisters ask for something. Let's say, can I wear your new white dress tonight? And the other sister would say, yes, of course. The words were yes. But Erickson, from the chair, saw the no.
So what did the no look like? If her mouth said yes, where was the no?
It was in the second language. The mouth smiled. The words were polite and agreeable. But he saw a momentary squint of the eyes. Literally a millisecond of dislike or annoyance. He saw the neck muscles tighten into cords. He saw her hip turn just slightly away from the sister she was agreeing with.
The body was rebelling against the mask. It was
Yeah.
telling the truth, even when the mouth was telling a social lie.
Exactly. He realized that humans communicate on 2 channels simultaneously. Channel 1 is verbal. That's the mask. It's easy to manipulate. We can lie with words effortlessly. We're taught to do it from a young age. Say thank you to grandma for the itchy sweater.
Right. Even if you hate it.
But channel 2 is nonverbal.
And that's the truth.
That is the truth. And it is incredibly hard to control because it's wired directly into our ancient nervous system. The body doesn't really know how to lie. It reacts to the core emotion before the conscious brain can step in and censor it.
Erickson eventually recovered, right? I mean, the story doesn't end with him in the chair.
Amazingly, yeah. He used that same intense observational power to reconnect with his own muscles. He would watch his baby sister learn to walk, and he would mentally reverse engineer the movements until his own body started to respond.
Wow.
He eventually regained his ability to walk and became a world-famous therapist, one of the founders of modern hypnotherapy.
And his magic as a therapist, it wasn't really magic at all, was it?
His magic was that he didn't really listen to his patients' stories, at least not the words. Patients would come in and they'd have this prepared script, this narrative about their problems. Erickson would just sort of ignore the script.
He was watching their hands.
He watched their hands, he watched the pulse in their neck, he watched their feet, he was reading the glitches, the leaks, the nonverbal channels.
He was bypassing the UI and reading the server data directly. He was seeing the code.
And Greene's whole point is that we can all learn to do this. We don't need to get polio to develop this skill. We just need to stop being so self-absorbed in conversations and start really, truly looking for that lag.
Okay, so let's get technical. Why does this happen? We are smart creatures. We've gone to the moon. Why can't we just lie perfectly? Why does the body betray us like this?
This brings us right to slide 3, the glitch. And it all comes down to hardware. It's about our brain's architecture.
Okay, let's pull up the schematic. Let's imagine a cross-section of the human head.
Deep in the center of your brain, you have the limbic system. This is the ancient brain, the lizard brain. It handles survival, emotion, fight or flight. It processes information incredibly fast. Let's call it the red system.
Red for hot, fast, reactive, fire. I like that.
Then, in the front of the brain, right behind your forehead, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the new upgrade. It's the CEO, the logical, planning, social part of the brain. Let's call it the blue system.
And the blue system is slower.
It is much slower. It needs time to calculate consequences, to weigh options, to consider social norms.
So there's a speed differential. Red is faster than blue.
That is the absolute key to everything. Let's play it out in real time. Someone insults you in a meeting. Step 1. The stimulus, the insult, hits your ears. Step 2. The limbic system. The red system fires instantly. You feel a surge of rage. Your pupils dilate. Your jaw clenches. Your heart rate spikes. This happens in nanoseconds. This is the truth of how you feel.
But you can't punch your boss. That's a game over move in the corporate world.
Right. So step 3 kicks in. A fraction of a second later, the prefrontal cortex, the blue system, finally catches up. It screams, "Don't punch him! Smile! Be professional! You have a mortgage!"
It overrides the muscles in your face and pastes on a polite professional smile.
But the gap exists. For a millisecond, the truth was on your face.
That tiny, tiny gap between the red light firing and the blue light covering it up, that is the biological lag. That is the micro expression. The leak happens because the truth is always faster than the lie.
It's like when you load a web page on a really slow connection. For a split second, you see the raw HTML code before all the pretty design and the images load on top of it. That is a perfect analogy. And if you are watching for it, you can see the raw code of a person's emotion before their social personality design loads over it.
Greene talks about the shadow here. It sounds a bit Jungian, a bit mystical.
It is very Jungian in its roots, but it's also incredibly practical. The shadow is simply all the stuff the prefrontal cortex, the blue system, is trying to hold down. All the messy stuff, the arrogance, the deep-seated insecurity, the perversions, the greed. It's like trying to hold a big beach ball underwater at the pool.
Right, you can do it when you're fresh and focused. You can hold that ball down all day long.
But what happens when you're tired? Or you're drunk? Or you're incredibly stressed out, your arm gets tired, the muscle weakens, and that ball shoots up out of the water with incredible force.
That explains the angry drunk phenomenon so perfectly.
Alcohol is a depressant that specifically suppresses the prefrontal cortex. It literally puts the CEO to sleep. So the red system gets to run the show unfiltered. That's why the angry drunk isn't a new personality. It's just the person without their editor. It's the shadow unleashed.
Okay, so we know the mechanism. We know about the lag. Now I want the cheat codes. I want to know how to use this in real life. Let's move to slide 4, the strategy. How do I actually spot these leaks out in the wild?
Greene gives us some very specific archetypes to watch out for. And this is crucial because the most dangerous people in the social game are often the best actors. He identifies these toxic types who use